Chayei Sarah. Life of Sarah. Outline of Torah portion. Death and burial of Sarah. The Torah portion begins saying, Now Sarah lived 127 years. Sarah was married to Abraham for a long time, close to a century. She was a beautiful woman. Abraham himself admitted that she is a beautiful woman. Genesis chapter 12 verse 11. Twice she was abducted because of her beauty. We know that she was hospitable, for Abraham hurried into her tent to request her to make the cakes when the three visitors arrived. She respected and honored her husband. She addressed Abraham as Lord. She was also a modest woman. She was a virtuous and a God-fearing woman who exerted a powerful influence on Abraham. Abraham loved Sarah. He acknowledged her beauty. Abraham remained faithful to Sarah even though she was barren for a long period of time. Abraham did not want to divorce Sarah, but he sought God's intervention in this matter. He took Hagar to be his wife only at the request of Sarah. Also, in obedience to God, Abraham did not allow the maid-servant Hagar to supplant her mistress. Beauty of Sarah. Sarah was beautiful that those around her acknowledged it. She was abducted twice. Second time when she was abducted, she was 90 years old. Peter the Apostle says that the beauty should not come from outward adornment. Rather, it should be that of your inner self. The unfading beauty of a Gentile and a quiet spirit, which is of great worth in God's sight. Peter the Apostle says that this is the way the holy women of the past who put their hope in God used to adorn themselves. They submitted themselves to their own husbands. He also reminds us of how Sarah obeyed Abraham and called him her Lord. 1 Peter chapter 3 verse 1 to 6. Clement, the disciple of Peter the Apostle, says, Let us direct our wives to that which is good. Let them exhibit the beautiful behavior of purity. Let them show an honest attitude of meekness. Let them demonstrate the control they have over their tongue. By the way they speak, let them display their love for others, not by showing favoritism just to best friends, but by showing the same affection to everyone who piously fears God. Sarah's tomb and its deed. When Sarah died, they were camped at Hebron. In those days, burials were made in caves. They served as family tombs. In that culture, trials, legal proceedings, and court cases and matters of dispute were resolved at the city gates. Abraham said to the sons of Het, I am a foreigner living as an alien with you. Let me have a burial site with you so that I can bury my dead wife. Genesis chapter 23 verse 4. They said that they had no hesitation in providing a burial place. They said, Not one of us would refuse you his tomb for burying your dead. Genesis chapter 23 verse 6. Abraham said, Ask Ephron, the son of Zohar, to give cave of Machpelah, sell it in your presence at its full value, then I will have a burial site of my own. The negotiation went on. Abraham wanted to pay the full price, but Ephron wanted to give it free of charge. In the end, Ephron mentions the value of the land as 400 silver shekels. Torah says that Abraham weighed for Ephron the amount of money he had specified in the presence of sons of Het, 400 silver shekels of weight accepted among merchants. the field of Ephron in Machpelah, which is by Mamre, the field, its cave, and all the trees in and around it were deeded to Abraham as his possession in the presence of the sons of Het, who belonged to the ruling council of the city. Genesis chapter 23, verses 17 and 18. Abraham knew that his descendants would inherit the entire land of Canaan in the future. For God has kept his covenant promise with Abraham. Abraham knew that there must be a legal sale of the property to avoid others using it for burial purposes. The Torah has carefully worded and recorded the transaction so that its location and ownership cannot be contested by other nations in the future. Search for a wife for Isaac. By now, Abraham was old, advanced in years, and Adonai had blessed Abraham in everything. Genesis chapter 24, verse 1. He entrusted the task of finding a wife for Isaac to his servant, who oversaw all he owned, the one who had served him the longest. Torah does not mention the name of the servant, but traditionally he is identified as the Eliezer of Damascus. An arranged marriage, a match between a man and a woman, is called shidduch. Finding a shidduch for someone else is also considered a great mitzvah. Abraham instructed him not to choose a wife for Isaac from the women of Canaan. He was asked to go to Abraham's homeland, to his kinsmen, in search for the bride for Isaac. He also said that Isaac should not go back to Abraham's homeland. For God has said that, I will give this land to your descendants. Genesis chapter 24, verse 7. And in the event of the woman unwilling to follow the servant will be released from his obligation under Abraham's oath. The servant put his hand under the thigh of Abraham, his master, and swore to him concerning the matter. Genesis chapter 24, verse 9. Rebekah. Then the servant took 10 of his master's camels and all kinds of gifts from his master, got up and went to Aram Naharaim, to Nahor's city. Genesis chapter 24, verse 10. The servant had the camels kneel outside the city by the well. He waited for the women to come to the well to draw water. He prayed to the God of his master Abraham. He said, let me have success in this endeavor, and please show your grace to my master Abraham. I will say to one of the girls, please lower your jug so that I can drink. If she answers yes, drink, and I will water your camels as well. Then let her be the one you have appointed for your servant Isaac. This is how I will know that you have shown grace to my master. Torah says that before he finished his prayer, Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel, son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, came out with her jug on her shoulder. Torah records that the girl was beautiful, a virgin, never having had sexual relations with any man. She went to the spring, filled her jug, and came up. The servant asked her, please give me a sip of water from your jug to drink. She replied, drink, my lord. She also said, I will also draw water for your camels until they have drunk their fill. It is remarkable that Rebekah, daughter of Nahor, came to the well to draw water at the right time. Remember, the process to find the bride for Isaac began with Abraham. By faith and with confidence, Abraham said, God will send his angel ahead of you, and you are to bring a wife for my son from there, Abraham's homeland. Nowadays, single people have list of criteria that have a potential mate must satisfy. Most common criteria are social status, education, appearance, recognition, age, etc. The servant of Abraham did not have a list of criteria that must be found in the bride for Isaac. Abraham also did not supply him with a list. The servant too did not rely on his instincts or on his own wisdom. Both Abraham and his servant engaged God in the matter. God honored Abraham's faith and arranged the meeting of Rebekah and Abraham's servant. The servant also was under the blessing and authority of Abraham. Servant of Abraham was not simply looking for a potential bride, but he was looking for a girl who is capable to shoulder the responsibilities in Abraham's household. Rebekah faced a simple test at the well, and she passed the test. The man gazed at her in silence, waiting to find out whether Adonai had made his trip successful or not. Genesis chapter 24, verse 21. Rebekah, the servant of Abraham, asked who she is. She answered, I am the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah. Go to Nahor. Genesis chapter 24, verse 24. Bethuel was Abraham's nephew, son of Abraham's brother Nahor. Rebekah showed hospitality to the stranger. She was also quick to draw water for his 10 camels. She also offered a place to stay for the strangers and for the camels. She possessed a spirit of humility. She is from a noble family, yet did not regard herself as too dignified or important. The servant of Abraham told Rebekah's family how God has made his master Abraham successful and that he sent him to look for a bride for Isaac. Laban and Bethuel replied, Since this comes from Adonai, we cannot say anything to you, either bad or good. Genesis chapter 24, verse 58. They called Rebekah and asked her, Will you go with this man? And she replied, I will. Genesis chapter 24, verse 58. She was obedient and was willing to travel to Canaan to be Isaac's wife. Marriage of Isaac and Rebekah. Isaac went out to meditate in the fields towards evening, and he lifted his eyes and looked, and behold, the camels coming. Genesis chapter 24, verse 63. In fact, Isaac was praying in the field. The Hebrew word translated as meditate is also used to mean prayer. She said to the servant, Who is this man walking in the field to meet us? When the servant replied, It's my master, she took her veil and covered herself. Genesis chapter 24, verse 65. When she realized that it was her fiancé, she covered herself with the veil. According to the tradition, a woman would veil herself in the presence of her fiancé just prior to the marriage. Then Isaac brought her into his mother Sarah's tent and took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. Thus was Isaac comforted for the loss of his mother. Genesis chapter 24, verse 67. Death of Abraham. Abraham took another wife whose name was Keturah. Abraham gave everything he owned to Isaac. Genesis chapter 25, verse 5. To the sons of the concubines he made grants and sent them off to the east to the land of Kedem, away from Isaac his son. Abraham lived 175 years. Then Abraham breathed his last, died in a ripe old age, an old man and satisfied with life. And he was gathered to his people. Genesis chapter 25, verse 8. Abraham died in faith. At the time of his death, Abraham did not own the land of Canaan. He has not become a great nation. All the promises God made to him were not fulfilled at the time of his death. He could have gone back to Mesopotamia at any time, but he did not go back. He died in faith because he saw and welcomed it from a distance. All these people kept on trusting until they died without receiving what had been promised. They had only seen it and welcomed it from a distance, while acknowledging that they were aliens and temporary residents on the earth. Hebrews chapter 11 verses 13. Therefore, this one man who was virtually dead fathered descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as countless as the grains of the sand on the seashore. Hebrews chapter 11 verse 12. Abraham was looking forward to something more than a temporal blessing of this world. But as it is, they aspire to a better fatherland, a heavenly one. This is why God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared them a city. Hebrews chapter 11 verse 16. Descendants of Ishmael. Ishmael lived 137 years. Then he breathed his last and died and was gathered to his people. Ishmael's sons lived between Havilah and Shur, near Egypt, as you go towards Ashur. He settled near all his king's